Hi, welcome to the Cyber War and Cyber Peace Cyber Policy Briefing. This is Alex Mayrides. What are our strategic goals in terms of cyber diplomacy? Our strategic goals should be America First mentality. We should make sure within our borders our technology and citizens are safe from each other, corruption, and outside forces exterior to the borders themselves. By strengthening ourselves, we can help surrounding countries and our allies by creating a system that works. Other countries can model our system and ask for help creating and mirroring the system that works. Strengthening every citizen's knowledge while surfing the internet can create a better overall sense of security in the nation as well. Are we seeking to engage in a form of cyber colonialism, enforcing our will on the virtual world? Yes, we should enforce our will and views in the virtual world as we do in the physical world. Our American values should also be represented in the virtual world as well as the physical to keep our democratic system alive and thriving. Keeping an upper hand on the virtual world will allow us to voice our beliefs in any country, and negotiations can be made if there are differences in policies with other countries. Do we want a collective cyber world order governed by new international agreements? To an extent, there should be some international agreements recognized between nation-states and the United States. The variance in countries on cyber laws are different across the board, and some countries don't have cyber laws set in place. Creating international relations would have to have respect with other countries and their differences, which would be challenging to set in place in creating international law. The agreements between the United States and several countries would amount to easier one-on-one agreements with specific legislation between each country. Do we ignore the issue altogether? No, ignoring the issue will not solve anything. Ignoring alliances can stray international relationships to a place where international leaders might not want to end up, causing conflict. If we do not define our place at the table of the virtual world, we will not grab a seat. We would highly be limited in our freedoms on or with the internet. At this point, other countries with high control of the internet can and will impose their beliefs against the United States, whether they're an ally or an enemy. With the virtual world not having anything remotely close to borders, there needs to be an understood line of deterrence between each country not to interfere with each other's use of the internet. What are the three top threats that we face in the cyber world as a nation? Our current biggest threats we have in the virtual world that we face are cyber physical attacks, the cyber education gap with our citizens, and our right to privacy. Cyber physical attacks have been used by the United States against the enemies of the United States. For example, during the Cold War, the Soviet Union was caught stealing intelligence from the United States. Then the Pentagon ended up developing one of the first forms of the Trojan horse virus. This virus made the Siberian pipeline slowly start having errors that went undetected, then finally causing the catastrophic explosion. The same type of approach can be undetected in automated farming systems and hydroelectric dams that make an excess or deficit of water regulation influencing the prices of crops to the energy created and potable water people receive, which can be used against the United States if enemies can get a hold of these type of cyber physical attacks in retaliation. The cyber education gap is an exponential crisis. The rapid rate of technology advances way faster than we can educate a large amount of people on the subject, but there are steps to keep the gap smaller than it needs to be. Civilian businesses are currently being affected by many misunderstandings and easily correctable mishaps. Businesses now have to put in place monitored browsing rules to keep the computers that prevent human error of downloading unauthorized files that can possibly gain control of the business's intranets. Employees often have wasted time at work web browsing. In the wasted time at work survey, 22% of those surveyed said they spend at least 2 hours surfing daily on the internet, while 14% said they spend 3 or more hours wasting time surfing. Although what is seen as risky websites are blocked on the browser block list, 83% of malware is accessed from hijacked browsers. In the case of targeting phishing attacks, emails are often replicated to fine detail with fake emails that often include a link to something pretending to be a trusted business correspondent that can often be overlooked by an employee by not checking the sender, then easily opening up an access point for the hacker to take down the system, costing the company thousands, if not millions of dollars by the attacks previously mentioned. This is an everyday occurrence that is not addressed to employees and regular computer users. Phishing surveys also often lead to compromised email accounts that can eventually lead to identity fraud by getting information to bank accounts through login information. Our right to privacy has come under fire lately, with bypassing the Fourth Amendment in some cases and limiting our First Amendment in others. The Privacy Protection Act was first put in place in 1980 during the creation of the computers, way before what defines a computer and all the information it possesses today. The abilities of a computer were not really known at the creation of the Privacy Protection Act, but since then have been eroded by acts like the Patriot Act, the Stored Communications Act, and the Information Sharing Act. Citizens have been misled to post their entire life in a virtual folder of themselves that all businesses will be able to get a hold of, as well as the government or anyone else that can interfere the transfer of these files. The terms and agreements that everyone on the planet uses are not put into simple words for everyone to understand, especially if they have no experience with legal writing. Everyone is mandated to read and accept the terms and conditions. Though even after reading, most citizens do not know actually what's going on with their information. There is also never an option of being able to use the products or services without their information spread, shared, auctioned, and sold online. For instance, during the Senate hearing of Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, he had admitted to creating ads directed to specific people, although until this time disclosing there was no way to turn off the targeted ads by not allowing Facebook to trace everything through social media, website, and the app. This information was shared with businesses for some type of gain for Facebook revenue, though not directly, yet at the same time not notifying users when the terms and agreements were updated. How well are we responding to those threats? We are training law enforcement on how to prevent the existing threats and attacks, although situational awareness and precautious measures often help most in the time of crisis. We are slowly bringing up the nation to certain standards in the virtual world, such as creating backups in case of ransomware attacks. Government employees that have not used a computer for much of their career would also be encouraged to continue to keep their same level to keep things simple. The lesser activity a person does on the internet, the lesser chance they have of getting into risky situations. The decrease in traffic would also allow network administrators to monitor their network traffic more effectively. How can we help eliminate the cyber threats? Businesses can help educate their employees on how to prevent cyber crimes from happening, which can be passed down to their family as well. Teaching cybersecurity to the youth in schools can also help enforce what is being taught to adults to help close the learning gap. Collectively, this will raise higher awareness for cybersecurity gaps that can help lead to more of these gaps being solved as more minds discuss the solutions. In regards to law and policies, the No Child Left Behind policy can work as a skeleton or framework for implementing the addition of cybersecurity to the curriculum of either the Common Core or have a standalone legislation to update schools. That way we can address the cyber education gap within the nation. In regards to rights of privacy, the Fourth Amendment and legislation like the Patriot Act, the Stored Communications Act, and the Privacy Act, and the Sharing Information Act need to be redefined. That way they do not overpower or render the other acts useless by stripping away rights and possibly ignoring the Fourth Amendment and ignoring the First Amendment. In regards to international laws, creating agreements with foreign countries for case-specific and general extradition agreements of either two countries involved, like trading citizens while abiding by each other's laws, or forfeiting over a third party's country's citizens, as some criminals or refugees may have dual citizenship or outstanding warrants in multiple countries. International agreements must also include mutual deterrence by maintaining peace with allies of the United States and possible offensive cooperation between the allies of the United States and common enemies while not breaking other alliances with other countries. In regards to cyber warfare and cyber physical attacks, there should be a line made to protect the innocent citizen involvement, though with cyber physical attacks that might be rendered useless with the effects lasting out to citizens. A theoretical example of how cyber physical attacks would affect common citizens would be the control of a power grid that can affect certain people with regions that are bystanders in cyber warfare.